just in the interest of transparency and accessibility to make sure that anyone who couldn't make it tonight can watch in full later on, and we'll also be sending out minutes as usual and notes. Okay, we like to start with appreciations usually when we have these community meetings. So for those who are newer to the community, to our online community at least, that can be just a simple thanks or something you noticed that your student's teacher did. For example, I wanted to start, if I can take the prerogative, and just echo my thanks to Ben Haley, who has been our crossing guard at 31st and Spruce for several years now, and has been out there rain or shine, from getting there early and leaving after drop off, and the same at dismissal, and has braved a lot of dangerous drivers for the sake of children and their families. So I know a lot of you thanked him as you passed by earlier or last week, but I just wanted to give him another appreciation here. Any other appreciations? You can just chime in. Don't have to raise your hand if your mic is open.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Doris Brevort, and I'm substituting for your Leschi counselor, Miss Adams, while she's on maternity leave. So I've been at the school since the beginning, and I'll be here through the holiday break. And I just want to give a very big heads up of a welcome to me at the school, and thank you to Principal Lou and all the administration, and the teachers have been wonderful. And so I'm just very happy to be here to support the parent group, and thank you all for your participation, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Welcome again.
It's me.
All right. Others?
Hi, this is Violet Borghese. I'm the mother of Emilia Borghese in Miss Koyama's third grade class. And I would just like to appreciate all of the staff, the teachers, Mr. Liu, everybody at school has been amazing with this year and coming back to school, and all of that's been the logistics of making it good for the kids and good for the families. So I'm so grateful to be in this community, and I think everybody's doing an amazing job.
Thanks, Violet. Second that. And if I could ask everyone, thanks for introducing yourself as you go, but also why don't we have, so we have enough people, and if we're in the same room, we'd like to go around quickly with names, but in the interest of time, if you have the chat feature, if you could just put your name and the name, ages of your children, if you're a parent or a guardian at the school, or otherwise what your role at the school is, that would be great. So then we have a good record of who is here. Other appreciations?
Go for it.
My name's Julian. I'm in 4th grade, and I would like to compliment Mr. Gladney. He's really nice, and he is helpful when people get in a fight or people are in an argument at recess.
Thanks, Julian. I agree. I have one other. I didn't put this on the agenda, but be sending some information out. The groundbreaking will start soon on the rework of the whole garden in the front of the school, on the Yesler side of the school by the main entrance. And Kate Faulkner is a graduated parent. Her son Alder is at Meany now, but she really got that whole process going starting 2-3 years ago. getting the Rainwise people hooked in to put in the cisterns and the rain garden that will go in, going back to really 2 or 3 principals, I think, and has kind of kept it moving. So I don't want to take too much time here, but I just wanted to say thanks to her again, and she's continued to stay involved even though her child's no longer here. So I'm glad it will come to fruition, and we should look very transformed in front of the school probably by the end of the year, maybe even by sometime in November. All right, any appreciations? If you do forget, we can always come back later, or if you think of something later on, but don't be shy.
Hi, I'd love to do a quick appreciation. My name is Kristen Tuttle, and I have Julian, who's a 3rd grader, and Ambrose, who is a 1st grader. And I just want to do a shout out to Launch. When we are in person, they so kindly watch our kids during meetings and feed them dinner so we can all be together. They have just been completely extraordinary over the last couple of years. They were with my kids during all of remote learning. They are getting our kids after school as they're going through this transition back to in-person learning, which means they're getting kind of the meltdowns and the exhaustion at the end of the day. And they're awesome. They're dealing with major shortages. They have been through a lot through the pandemic as well as an organization. And they are still helping my kids personally sign on to a chess club in the afternoons on Wednesday. And it's so hard. And as we parents, have been juggling all of that, they're really partners with us in juggling all of that, and just have really extended so much beyond childcare to like parent. I know for sure my kids with me through this, and our school in general. And I just continue to be super grateful for them and mindful of all the transitions they've undergone. So always thinking about them.
Thanks, Kristen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nadia. I have a 3rd grader in Leschi and the graduate who is already in middle school, Washington. I like to say thank you to everybody for good job you are doing with social distancing. And also, it is hard, I know. So I'm very grateful for what you are doing. And God bless you and protect you from this disease. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Nadia. Okay. Let's move on. And Ty, I think you're with us, so we'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself. We're on item number 3. Yeah, and if you couldn't see the agenda, I'm not sure if this is the same as Zoom. I'm going to repost the agenda just in case, so you don't have to scroll all the way up. But I know with Zoom, if you come in late, you don't see it. But Ty, I'll turn it over to you. If you're here. Oh, there you are. Oh, you're still muted, Ty. Sorry.
Might help to unmute myself. Thanks, Vincent, and good evening, everyone. My name is Ty Maddox. I'm a parent at Leschi. I have a son in 3rd grade in Miss Koyama's class, and I am one of the parent or family representatives for the building leadership team. I'm going to put Mr. Liu on the spot and ask if Mr. Liu could give a brief explanation of what the building leadership team is, and then I will jump back. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, no problem, Ty. Yeah, so the building leadership team is a representative team of staff members who gather every 2 weeks to meet and discuss, have conversations, but also make certain decisions for the staff or get feedback from the staff. There's also the building leadership team is generally overseeing and responsible for the professional development plan, the budget process, as well as other kind of school decisions that are made. And the leadership team has been really just great at making sure they're getting the input and the feedback of staff members. And we are happy this year to have just like in previous years, we have parent representatives, and so Ty is one of the parent representatives, and Kelly Smith is another parent representative for this year for the building leadership team at Leschi.
One of your family representatives. So we don't yet have a student representative. So please consider Kelly and myself as people who can advocate for your families, for your child. There is a survey that we have, or a feedback form rather, a Google form, where if you have any concerns or if you have any shout outs or positive things to share, you can do that via the form. And you can also do it anonymously if that's more comfortable for you. So we've sent a link via email. We do have a flyer that we're going to begin passing out at pickup and drop off that has the link to the survey, or that has a link to the form. And it also has a QR code, so you can scan it with your camera and fill it out on your phone. We're also working on translating the survey or the feedback form in some of the other languages that are spoken at Leschi. Please be patient with us with that. But we're really here to be advocates for you, but also a reciprocal relationship. So this gives us insight into what the staff at Leschi is working through. In addition to teaching our children, there's a lot of other responsibilities they have. And so our hope is that we can translate some of the things that they are addressing in addition to teaching our kids. But we are here to help be advocates for you, and we work very closely with the PTA to make sure that we're all in alignment with what family needs are. The flyer will have my phone number and Kelly's phone number on it as well. If you feel more comfortable communicating with us via phone or text, we are available for you. Please keep in mind we're volunteers with jobs, and so we might not get back to you on the same day, but if you give us 24 to 48 hours, we promise that we'll get back to you. So that's in terms of parent or family reps on the BLT. Does anyone have questions for me?
Can I add something real quick?
Please, Mr. D.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle and I, Ms. Reese, today met with 4 fifth grade students, and they're interested. A couple of them have already been on our student equity team, and we didn't mention student membership into the BLT. And so what they're going to do is start going around the classrooms and talk about what the student equity team is and what it does, and recruiting members so we can start soon. So the initiative, the contact, they've been, appreciate how much they've been on me to get it done. So we did meet with them today, very productive meeting. We have some great young leaders there, so I'm looking forward to their input into this process.
Thanks, Mr. D. And Benson, did you mention?
Yeah, you can go right to your other hat that you're wearing if you want, Ty, because you're not doing it already.
So the other thing that there is talk about getting started at Leschi is a Black family affinity group. So this affinity group would work in conjunction with PTA, but it's a chance for Black families to really connect with each other and find out what the needs are of our students and network a little bit more closely with each other. Again, working in conjunction with the PTA, but for those of you familiar with an affinity group, there's just a level of feeling of safety, comfort, and security where perhaps we can get a little bit more accomplished on behalf of Black families and ultimately on behalf of the entire Leschi community. So we're trying to get something like that off the ground. If you're interested, please do let me know. We're in the very beginning stages of this, but we are firm believers that it takes a village to raise our children, and that's what we're trying to do. So please let me know if you have any questions on that as well. Thank you. And thank you to the Leschi staff for all of the things you do on behalf of our kids. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Ty. Any other questions on that?
Hey, this is
Thank you.
Michelle. How are you doing? I just wanted to know, I know we also have a parent liaison, and she's working with literacy, but she's also she just came back, but she was there last year. So I just want to make sure, because sometimes we often either that we're all in connection and that we're making between family support and everyone at Leschi and the PTA, that we are all continuing to be a family and that we are continuing to stay connected as of what's going on. And so, you know, we're not siloed or anything like that. And just, you know, bring that back. I don't know if she's on the line. She does have a student at the school as well. And that's Nia, and she just came back. But just making sure that, you know, we're all connected and yeah, that connection is being made at the school. I appreciate you taking that on, you and Kelly. It's very important that we have parents involved in the BLT, and that we have a voice for that, as you know, as parents, community of parents, and just wanting the PTA to continue to
You're you're freezing up there at the end, Michelle.
but for that as well.
Okay. Sorry, we might have lost a little bit at the end, but yeah, so I think you're talking about Ms. Stewart and as the family connector on the school side. So yes, absolutely. So at the end of we hadn't connected with her since we know she'd been out at the beginning of the school year. But Ty and Raquel Johnson, who's the liaison from within the PTA board, will be looping back with her as well. And for those who weren't at the school last year, we had a couple of sessions focused on Black families. Some were just in an affinity group unto themselves, and Ms. Mason, who was our head teacher last year and unfortunately moved on to another position, but she'd been doing a lot of work, joined by Ms. Stewart later in the year. So we were kind of trying to build all of that in continuity and follow from the meetings that we had toward the end of last year. And we'll be kind of sending those notes around as well, just to make sure that we have continuity. So there's kind of both the interface with the PTA board, as well as self-organizing within the Black affinity group community. So I know we have a lot of acronyms and things flying around, so please, you know, we'll try to spell them out as we go, but feel free to ask. and there's a lot of parts that fit together in different ways. It's good to see a lot of new names, if not new faces, on here. I can't, because of the way Teams works, I can't see everybody, but okay. Thanks a lot for that, Michelle. Okay, moving on, because I want to make sure we have time for the town hall. Mr. Liu, I'm sure folks have a lot of questions. We've sent, I'm going to post a link here to the this what seems like a rather overwhelming matrix, but this is a listing of a number of volunteer positions, and this gives you a sense of things that in a typical year as well. So these include events that we won't be able to do this year because of continued restrictions, but we wanted everyone to have a sense of kind of what often goes on and the things that the PTA in particular is involved in, although some of these are not even led by the PTA, but we have a hand in them one way or the other, or in coordinating with staff. Also on this link, and I'll send it around after the meeting too, is the description of the positions on the PTA board, and we'll come to this in a moment, but just to say that we'll still have some openings, and that can be kind of rolling membership if people are inclined to join the board later in the year. And I'd encourage you, I mean, this is the way it normally happens, and it's been hard to do over this last year and a half or so, that, you know, most people get involved by just coming to a couple meetings, which historically had been in person, getting a sense of what's going on, and then finding a project to work on, just something that you're interested in. And then over time, some people want to join the board as an at-large member, and perhaps continue to do that, or perhaps become involved as an officer on the executive committee. But we'll describe later kind of where the openings are. But just so you have that reference. And one thing I did want to highlight that I believe is on there, but also in kind of the coming soon category, we will be working with teachers over this coming month to establish family facilitators. We sort of started this last year in a pilot fashion. So a family facilitator in our vision is similar to a room parent, if you're familiar with that concept, but we call it family facilitator because we really want to emphasize helping to build and maintain connections between families. And we know that teachers and staff have a lot that they're doing, and they do the best they can, but directing traffic between parents is an extra thing. So that's something that you'll probably see an ask coming from the classroom teachers. But just to mention for those who are on here, those duties can be shared across the year. They can be handed off. It doesn't have to be one person throughout the whole year, but we'd like to have at least one parent or guardian per class who can help keep family members connected. We'll have directories for each class, and they can help keep them updated and maintained, although we have a somewhat easier process for that this year. I won't spare you the details for now. And also just be there to help coordinate with the other volunteer coordinators and classroom teachers in terms of what their needs are and how they can be supported when they need help with a project or a field trip if we ever get there, things like that. But there's a number of different opportunities on the list here, and again, we'll send out an email with the notes or in a separate email as well. I know they're having questions about volunteering, and this will, not to jump ahead to the town hall, but I know, Mr. Liu, I know there've been questions about when parents or guardians or volunteers might be allowed in classrooms. Is there clarity yet from SPS or from the district on that?
So not yet. Right now, the district is allowing volunteers for either health and safety or school operations. And so one of the areas in which we can allow volunteers right now is with any lunch and recess supervision, as that's considered a school operation. But there continues to be district policy around not having volunteers in classrooms, mainly because of contact tracing challenges and other things like that. So I believe the district will notify me, and then I can notify families if that changes.
Okay. And also I'll try to find the link to paste in here, but I would encourage everyone, if you're interested in volunteering at some point in the future, even if it's not, you don't know when it's going to be, do take the time to go through the required certification. It looks onerous. It's not too bad. There are some videos you have to watch online. And I think there's a vaccination. I forget how that's working, but they have to certify vaccination as well. But the link, all I can say is it's better than it used to be, and the instructions are more clear. And Ms. Donietta in the front office is the coordinator, and she can help check on your status and make sure you get through the system okay. Okay, moving on to other business. I'll keep an eye on the chat here in case anyone wants to ask anything. Okay, so we have, as a general membership meeting, we don't have too many official votes during the year, but this is one where we do. So we have, I'm very pleased to say, 2 volunteers to be co-secretaries. We went through last year without secretaries. And so Jasmine Marwaha and Dana Barnett are our nominees. They don't have anyone running against them, but so let's see, how do we use I haven't done voting in Teams, more familiar with Zoom. But if we can do a thumbs up, I'd like to, if I can ask for a motion from someone on the PTA board to nominate Jasmine and Dana as our co-secretaries. You can do that in the chat or vocally. I think that motion actually can come, sorry, I said board, I meant for anyone and also I should say we're still processing membership, so don't worry if you haven't paid your dues yet. If you're here, you're a member. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor for Jasmine and Dana to be our new co-secretaries? And you've got your thumbs up. All right, hands raised. Hands raised works. Give everyone a minute to find that. Great. They're rolling in. Okay. All right, we just have to be another 2 weeks until we hear from Georgia. Just bear with us. Okay, I think the motion carries, so congratulations, Dana and Jasmine, appreciate it. Good to have you. Okay, next, board vote. I think, Ricole, are you on the call? You can say hi if you're here. Ricole Johnson was an at-large member last year and is stepping forward to be a vice president this year on the board. So can I get a motion for, well, I can move for that we nominate Ricole as a vice president. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? Oh, she's here. Okay. You can keep the votes rolling in, but I think the motion carries. So congrats, Ricole. It's good to have you as in your new role. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So final bit of administrivia. I posted in the chat, and you may have seen it in the email earlier today, our standing rules. We, as a 501c3, as a nonprofit organization, we have part of our requirements as well as a member of the Washington State TPAs to vote on our standing rules every year that are kind of the basic protocols for how we operate and listing our officers and things like that. So I don't know if I can screen share here. I will try to do that as well, but you can, let's see. Can anyone, that's not sharing, is it? Oh yeah, maybe it is.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Try to get the right thing here. Close up. Okay. I will not make everyone stare at this, but I'm just so you have a reference. If you haven't been able to click on the link or look at it from your email, but essentially this lists our tax identification, how we operate under the Charitable Solicitations Act, some of the key roles in terms of filing our taxes, the responsibilities of the treasurers and the secretary. And I should note actually that the secretary and the treasurer is kind of the only board positions that have like very discrete official roles. We try to operate in a very flat basis. So, as president, I just sort of coordinate, but I don't have any authority over any other person on the board. And that's, of course, how we want things to operate even beyond the board, since those are people who just have stepped forward to help kind of put a little more of their time and energy to help everyone else's voices be heard. So every member of the PTA has the same standing, and it comes down to just a few limited things where the executive committee, the officers can vote, and of course managing the budget on behalf of the entire parent body, whether you're a member of the PTA or not. So I'm just going to scroll through this quickly. So before we have the vote, this is a listing of the officers. There are some regulations about how the board can reallocate funds from one part of the budget to another, and specifies what requires a vote and what can be done without a vote. And then some things about insurance and liability as well, and complying with the regulations under the Washington State PTA, of which we're an affiliate. Okay, could I, and again, we will share these again so you can look through them. And at the end here, we'll have the listing of the board. So I've already included in anticipation our new co-secretaries and our new vice president. These are the other current positions. And I should mention that I myself am outgoing. We usually have 2-year terms for our officers on the executive committee. I joined partway through the year in December of 2019, so my term is up in December. So we'll be looking for ideally 2 co-presidents to replace me and my non-existent counterpart. So we will continue to do the outreach on that front. I may put my name forward to stay on with Ricole as a vice president, but also we would be happy to have other people step into that role. And on the executive committee, there's also this legislative liaison or advocacy chair. If you're on the PTA list, the listserv, I send a note from advocacy today. So that's sort of our interface with the advocacy that the larger Seattle Council PTSA is doing, and sometimes statewide actions as well. And it's not always, the advocacy can also be separate from the PTSA. It can be other advocacy we're doing on behalf of our school or our community or our school community. So these are our at-large members, and our new members joining us that appointed by the executive committee are Sadia Happy, who you heard from earlier, Carly Houlihan Jones, and Aaron Purcell. They are new members of the at-large members this year. Okay, could I get a motion to approve the standing rules? If I didn't already in the chat here. Anyone? I can't, if you're raising your hand, I can't see you, so if you're actually raising your hand. Thank you. Second? Okay. All in favor to approve the standing rules for 2021 to 2022?
Aye.
Okay. We have a majority. All right. Thanks everybody for bearing with us through all that. I'm going to turn it over to you now, Steve.
All right. Thank you, Benson. Thank you to the PTA. I have a short presentation, and then there'll be some time for questions, a question and answer session. And again, this meeting is being recorded, and I'll share the recording of this meeting later this evening, as well as the slides that I will be presenting. And Benson, could you stop sharing your screen, and then?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. And again, if you weren't able to, for all of those who are watching on the recording, just thank you for watching this. Thank you to families, staff, and especially our students for your patience as we have experienced a very unique start to the school year. So in many ways, the first 4 to 5 weeks of this school year has almost felt like a pilot to see what are the systems in place, what needs to be changed or replaced or added, as we wouldn't really know what school would be like until we had all of our students present, especially with all the health and safety protocols, especially with just all of the different you know, anytime is a great time for appreciation. So a huge appreciation to the Leschi staff, and thank you to all the families who expressed their appreciation to Leschi staff members. Staff members have really been incredible in communicating with families, supporting students and each other. And this is all while many of the staff are working at or above capacity. And I'm speaking honestly that, and that doesn't even cover what staff members may be dealing with in their personal lives. So thank you for recognizing their service and for really just showing appreciation to all that our staff have been doing for our students. It has been challenging, and I recognize that there's still a lot of improvement that needs to happen at Leschi. And we can also remind each other of the positivity that is happening at Leschi each and every day. And that all of the adults at Leschi are here to care for and support our students who've been through so much in the past year and a half. And oftentimes, our students don't have the experience or the words or the ways to communicate how COVID, how isolation, how grief, and how racism have affected their lives. So just really want to call out our students and their flexibility and positivity and just continuing to be excited about learning each and every day. Just today, I was reminded of students who are so excited they run everywhere. So they run to, you know, if there's a car picking them up at the end of the day, they run to the car that's picking them up at the end of the day. They run to school in the morning. They are so excited about being at school, about learning, and about lots of different experiences. And so just commented that, you know, you rarely see adults do that unless it's, the comparison was getting on a plane at the airport. You might see people rush to do that, but otherwise, our students really are the reason why we're here, the reason why we're here together to support them. So here are the things that I'm going to cover today. I'm going to talk about some celebrations. I'm going to talk about some challenges, some of which you're already aware of based on district communication. A brief overview of our assessment plan, knowing that we need to get data about our students and where their skills are at so we can best support them. And then I'll end with a bunch of health and safety protocols as well as some changes. And we know that, and again, thank you for your patience, as some of these have changed almost like every few weeks they change. So some celebrations. Leschi students have high rates of attendance. 89.7%. This is the year-to-date attendance rate, and that is that's pretty high considering that we have a new reality where students stay home if they have symptoms. As in pre-COVID times, a lot of times students with colds would come to school if they didn't have a fever or they didn't have a serious illness. Would still come to school, and so we still have students out because of symptoms or because of quarantining, and so we have some high attendance rates. Staff also have high attendance rates, so thank you to Leschi staff for showing up, for being present to support our students. And we do have lower unfilled substitute numbers than other SPS schools. We have not even come close to some of the other SPS schools in which I've heard that over half of the staff have had unfilled substitute positions, and that that's been an incredible challenge for other schools. Another celebration is that face masks and the health and safety protocols are working. If you checked out the COVID dashboard, yes, we have had some positive cases at Leschi, but it's been, it has not grown. We have not had big outbreaks that have happened at the school, and we've generally been able to continue with teaching and learning and having the majority of our students present each school day. Students have been really flexible and positive regarding so many changes. The way they eat lunch, the way there are recess procedures, the way there's other school procedures. A lot of that has changed, and students have remained positive and flexible. And another celebration is we recently hired 2 Leschi parents who have become recess and lunch supervisors, and that has really been great to provide consistency about the adults who are supervising our students, and allows our support staff to support individual students or be in classrooms or support students in need. So here are some of our challenges. We do have unfilled substitute positions. Right now we average about 1 to 2 unfilled substitute positions each day, and depending on those positions, we prioritize classroom teacher positions. So if any classroom teacher has an unfilled substitute, we have a rotation of support staff who will cover and supervise the class if that happens. If there's other staff that are out, sometimes we do have situations in which a person who has an unfilled substitute position, we just have to either cancel specific services, or we have to cancel the support or the responsibilities of that staff member for that day. And as many of you know, hiring is still an issue and a challenge for many organizations, and Seattle Public Schools is not exclusive in this challenge. And then last week, you may have seen or read a message from the district about transportation delays and challenges. And one thing that I'm here to communicate is that this will be getting worse. And one of the main reasons is because quite a few of the bus drivers will not be able to meet the vaccination requirement by the deadline. And so because of that, the district is having to, the district contracts with First Student, and First Student is having to shift drivers to prioritize students who have IEPs, who receive special education services and have special transportation to school. So drivers will be shifted to support those students, as there are legal requirements to have those students be given transportation to school. And that means that some of the general education bus routes in Seattle Public Schools may have significant delays, or the worst case scenario is some of the bus routes will be canceled. So in the communication, it said that with the current number of drivers that they have that are able to meet the vaccination requirement, the district anticipates that they will be able to fill 1/3 of the current general education bus routes starting next week. And so, right now, a big shout out to Ms. Stout and Ms. Danieta. They do an incredible job in the office, answering calls, but also making sure that they are calling transportation to figure out where buses are, to figure out where the car services are. And thank you for your patience with that. And please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Another challenge is addressing the needs of students and families who have and are experiencing trauma. Again, we have students who haven't been in person in school since March of 2020. And for some of our students and families, they have experienced an enormous amount of trauma and grief and loss within that time. And some of that is manifesting in lots of different ways with our students. And so that's been a challenge, as our staff has been really helping and supporting our students as they readjust to working with others, to being with others, and some of the challenges, but also the celebrations that brings. Another challenge is the district is continuing to communicate with principals about potential staffing adjustments and possible further staffing cuts. once I get more information about this, I will let families know, but right now no specific decisions have been made. I just want everyone to be aware that this is an ongoing conversation in the district, and that there could be some adjustments or cuts that could affect Leschi and will definitely affect other schools in the district. And when I say adjustments, I mean a reallocation of staffing. So if a school has experienced higher student enrollment, then staff would be shifted from schools with lower enrollment to help serve the schools that have higher enrollment. So those are just things that I'm getting information on a daily basis, but also again, no decisions have been made. I've heard in the next week or two we'll have more information about that, and I will let you know if Leschi will be affected with any of that. And then something else, a question that came up from one of our BLT representatives was just making sure that families understand that our technology classes, so last year and in previous years, we had music, PE, art, and technology. And our technology classes have stopped because we had lower enrollment. And so therefore, Miss Q and her position to teach technology classes and art, that was not continued due to lower enrollment. So that's the reason why your child may not be talking about any technology classes that they are attending during the school day. So quickly, and like I said, I'll send these slides out after this meeting is over. Classroom teachers right now are spending a lot of time, of course, doing teaching and learning and making sure they're teaching core content areas like reading and math. And they are also doing individual reading assessments. So 1st through 5th grade teachers have been spending a lot of time doing those individual reading assessments. And that is that testing window is closing by this Friday. And then our 1st through 5th grade students are also taking the measures of academic progress, or the MAP test. This is a way so that we can find out what are the skills of our students, and in a way this is a computer-based test, in a way that we can at least get some data initially. And this is also something where all Seattle Public Schools elementary schools are taking the MAP test in 1st through 5th grade. The Smarter Balance assessment will also be taken this fall by our 4th and 5th graders. The 4th and 5th grade students will take the Smarter Balance assessment in the previous grade to get a kind of a baseline of their skills. And so an example is that this year's 4th graders will take the 3rd grade Smarter Balance assessment this fall. And then here are the dates that the 4th grade and 5th grade are scheduled for the Smarter Balance assessment. And I will send specific communication to our 4th and 5th grade families about the assessment, as well as other information that families will need to know. So some quick updates about health and safety protocols. The first is that currently we are monitoring and then sending the majority of our students home who have symptoms at school. There is new guidance by the Department of Health that is starting soon, and that is that students who have very specific symptoms or major symptoms will require a negative COVID test or PCR test before they can return to school. And those symptoms are a fever, shortness of breath, muscle or body aches, or new loss of taste and smell. If a person has a minor symptom, then they can return to school if the symptoms significantly improve within 24 hours and they do not need a negative COVID test. So these symptoms include congestion, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, cough, headache, fatigue, and sore throat. Now, this is guidance from the Department of Health, and so there will be information that I'll be including that I'll send to families by tomorrow or Friday about these changes. As far as additional updates, please just continue notifying the office if your child has symptoms and they'll be absent from school. If a student does need to quarantine, then asynchronous work will be provided to that student during their quarantine period. We do have COVID testing still available at Leschi and at all SPS schools, but I'll be honest that the testing, the results typically don't get back until about a week's time or 7 days. So we are pretty much sending all of our families of any students with symptoms to the curative or King County sites, the free COVID testing sites that are located around the area. The closest to Leschi being the Garfield Community Center or the Rainier Beach Community Center. Those have faster results, and families are reporting that they receive the results within 24 to 48 hours. And then just a quick plea to please remind your child to wear their face mask correctly over their nose and under their chin. Our staff are spending a lot of time reminding students to wear their masks correctly each day. So lunch procedures, students continue to sit in the play court outside and in the lunchroom. They sit on the floor to eat their lunch. The reason for that is because with the lunch tables, we can't physically distance students 6 feet while still maximizing the space. And so a lot of schools are doing this right now. And when students are eating indoors, they're sitting 6 feet apart. And then when they're outside in the play court, they're 3 to 4 feet apart. And that is based on guidance from the Department of Health. The weather is getting colder, so please have your child dress for the weather. And then I will notify families in advance if there's any changes to the lunch plan. Some schools have shifted to all students eating indoors, but I will let families know in advance if that's going to happen. And then all SPS provided meals and milk are free of charge to all SPS families. All right, I'm looking at the time and really thinking that this is the last slide. So during morning drop-off, a few reminders: please do not double park or stop in the middle of 31st Avenue to let your student out of their car. It blocks traffic and is a safety concern. Parents and family members, you are allowed into the school building if you have an appointment or you have an approved accommodation by me. And then if you do need to come to the school building and visit or pick up your child early, please check in at the office before entering any hallways or classrooms of the school. And again, that is something that needs to be approved by our office staff, or at least an appointment needs to be made in advance. And then during drop-off and dismissal, please stay off of the playground during those times unless you have an appointment or are going to check in at the office. All right, so that was a lot of information. Again, these slides will be sent out. What questions do you have? Feel free to use the chat. Feel free to unmute and ask a question if you have it. I see some hands that are raised. I'm not sure if those were from the voting before.
My chat's not working, so I wasn't able to. But I just have a question about the assessments for 4th and 5th grade. And if somebody can press mute, I feel like I'm echoing. But so my question is since the assessment is coming up in the next 2 weeks, is it an expectation for 4th and 5th graders to be working on what's going to be on those assessments?
And so no, there is not that expectation. We just want to see where students' skills are at this time. There's no the data that we're going to get is is basically a specific score and then the level of that score. And the reason for the Smarter Balance assessment this fall is because the state of Washington got a waiver from the federal government to not test last spring. And so in not testing last spring, the state basically understood that they would be required to test this fall. But there's no preparation that students need to do, and the students for the Smarter Balance assessment won't be doing the big long essays or any of that. It'll just be the computer adapted tests that they're going to be taking for 4th and 5th grade. All right, question in the chat. Is a rapid COVID test acceptable for a child with symptoms, or does it have to be a PCR test? So the Department of Health guidelines now is that it needs to be a PCR test. So the rapid tests are not acceptable anymore for having a student return back to school. So it does need to be a PCR test, and we have information sheets with addresses of some of the curative sites around the neighborhood that families can go to get that PCR test. Another question in the chat, what can we do to support teachers during this time? You know, I think that, well, I mean, something kind of simple that you can do that might not be done as often, and you know, I'm guilty of this as a parent as well, is just responding to teacher communications and saying thank you, or just a message of appreciation. That can actually go quite a long way, and just having teachers know that you are reading their communications, you are really appreciative of their efforts. That's something very small that you can do that doesn't take too much time. Of course, another way would be just to check in and see what are some things that the teacher might need in the classroom. What are things that that would be helpful for them, as far as not necessarily material things, but it could be like, you know, even cutting out things at home, or helping prepare materials. Those are all things that could be helpful for families to do. Thanks for that question. All right, there is device, so the question in the chat, device distribution, is this still happening, or will be done in case there's a switch to virtual learning? The good news is that our kindergarten students have now all been checked out an iPad. So at this point, all of our students have been checked out in either an iPad or a laptop. So kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade students were given an iPad checked out through our library system, and then 3rd through 5th grade students were assigned a laptop. There might be a few students who are still waiting on a device, but the vast majority, I would say 98% of our students, all have a device at this time. We are right now having all the teachers keep the devices here at school because of the testing that needs to be done and using those devices. And because we no longer have a computer lab at Leschi that was dismantled last year, since we already had that plan of every student having a device. So devices are ready in case there is a need to switch to virtual learning. We would just have device pickup events if that switch happened and students weren't in school to bring their device home. All right, next question. Do we know if the bus company is providing paid time off for employees to get the vaccine and recover from it? Is it possible for the district to influence these companies to improve on their pay and benefits? Just wondering on the underlying reasons for the shortage of bus drivers. Yeah, so I actually don't have that information, whether they're providing that paid time off. I know that First Student, just like a lot of other school districts around our area and around the whole country, have really struggled to find enough bus drivers who have a commercial driving license, as well as the vaccine requirements. So, and as far as pay, that's a tough question, because there's a specific amount of money that is allocated for transportation that Seattle Public Schools provides to first student. And not all of it is provided by the federal government, and so the district also has to provide some of that funding through their own budget. The next question in the chat. Oh, does the school still need snacks? Thanks for that question. So thank you so much to families who have donated snacks and donated funding. We have a lot of funds now, and Miss Stout has been ordering lots of snack. We just got our first shipment in today. And so Mr. Donaldson's closet, where we keep all the snack, is now filled with some snacks. So we are good and set probably for at least the next few months, and I will update families if there's any additional need for snacks or funding. So thank you so much for your support. All right, so yes, Benson in the chat put, another way to support teachers is to volunteer to be a class family facilitator. And family facilitator roles are to maintain a contact list for class families, facilitate communications between families, and organize class and team gatherings, help and connect volunteers with opportunities for and in the class, and working with volunteer coordinators. So that is another great way to support our teachers. All right, other questions? Okay, well, it is 8:07. Thank you so much for attending tonight. Please feel free to reach out if you have other questions. You can email me when I send emails out, and you see a cell phone number there. You can text me at that number. You can give me a call at that number. If it's during the school day, you probably have to leave a message, but I will get back to you. And please feel free to reach out with questions, or feel free to reach out to any staff member with any questions that they can send to me if they need to. But again, thank you for your time tonight. I'll stay on for a few more minutes if there's any more questions. And thank you to the Leschi PTA.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Hey, Benson,
Yeah.
do you know how to save the chat? I can't seem to copy it.
Yeah, in Zoom, I'm able to do it. So again, Teams is stymied me. Steve, I just want to, sometimes we lose the chat in Zoom. So does it get saved in Teams when you send a recording? I can't recall.
I'm not sure, but I know that right now in Teams, the new feature is transcription. And so okay, in the recording, people should be able to see all the transcription. I don't know about the chat, but I can find out.
I'll stay on. I think I might be able to do a little end run here. Let's see.
Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.